I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
Yeah?
So I think this will be the last time I mention it, but on Wednesday, because it's going to happen. On Wednesday, October 16th, we're going to be at the Philosophical Research Society to watch a screening of Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a documentary about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. We'll be there with the Happy Horror Time guys and Gregorio Davila to talk about the movie after the screening.
Mm-hmm.
So if people want to join us, it's in Los Feliz. Tickets are under $13. So you get to watch a cool documentary and talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also recommend, if people are going, because there is no parking at the Philosophical Research Society. However, Los Feliz, you can park on Los Feliz starting at 7:00. So if it were me, we're going to be there early, but if it were me, I would just show up at 7 because it's not going to start on time, so that you can very easily park like on Los Feliz. So those are my words of advice. Also, we have a new design in the merch shop. Which is of Glenn Close as Roberta in The Deliverance,
AKA Glenn Quisha, AKA Glenn J. Blige.
Yeah. And it's her smoking her cigarette, saying very calmly, "Then do it, bitch." And that's in response to her daughter, played by
Andra Day.
Or Andra. I always forget.
I think it's Andra.
Anyway, she tells Glenn Close, "I've knocked bitches' teeth out for less," when Glenn Close says, "Then do it, bitch."
And I was trying to talk to some artists that I know have designed some shirts that I liked, and then I told Joseph, I'm like, we should just have this as our own merch.
So a link to the merch shop is in the description to this podcast,
and more to come.
Buy something. Also, I made a post about us being on Letterboxd. So now there's like a spike in people following us on Letterboxd. The reason I posted it is because we often get comments saying you don't ever like anything, which is not true.
No, I have things that I'm hyperbolic about.
If you
try to hide that
on Nick's Letterboxd at movies he's given 3 stars or above to, because if you give something a 3, that means you thought it was good.
I think a 3 is a really good score.
So anything 3 and above, you've given thousands of movies 3 and above.
I have over 12,000 films that.
But of the 12,000, I mean, what, like 7,000 or 3 and above?
Sure. Yeah,
that's more movies than people watch in a lifetime.
That's true.
So for someone to say you don't like anything is insane, especially when, like, you know, whatever video they're commenting on about we don't like anything, it's surely bookended with at least one film you did like.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
instead of commenting, why don't you just follow us on Letterboxd and look up movies that Nick has liked, and then
don't come for me. And also since that's part of the I've watched obviously many more films than I've logged on Letterboxd, but I only started keeping track of what I see since May of 2008. So anything that I've seen before that, I will personally rewatch before I rate it.
I will warn people / give them an insider tip. Nick will immediately log whatever he watches on Letterboxd. So if you want to know what he gave a movie before the review drops, you should look on Letterboxd. If you don't want it to be ruined, then don't check his Letterboxd beforehand. But
I guess I assume that nobody's really looking, so
I wish you wouldn't do that and that you would post it with the link to the review, but
that's a lot of work.
We all have to do things our way, I guess.
It's like also having to I like for my written reviews, Rotten Tomatoes will just somebody out there is automatically putting the shit on Rotten Tomatoes, but for our YouTube, we're supposed to go in and do it, and I hate doing that.
Well, I wish you would, because it would bring more traffic to the videos.
I know, but it's just so like, oh my God. Like,
moving on. So a couple of weeks ago, Shannon Sharpe got into trouble for making some comment about horsehair on Twitter, X, and then people were asking me to talk about it. And I'm so surprised that that got a lot of attention. But his recent interview with Dion Cole, he said something I find way worse, and I haven't seen any heat about that.
Okay.
So I'm going to start some shit because Shannon Sharpe interviewed Dion Cole, who I really like.
Same.
People might know Dion Cole's a stand-up comedian and a writer, and people might know him most from Blackish, but he currently has a Netflix stand-up special that's doing well, which is why he was being interviewed by Shannon Sharpe. But at one point, Shannon asks Dion, do you prefer natural women or enhanced women, like breast implants, BBLs? And Dion said he prefers natural women. And then Shannon was shocked because clearly, like, he likes, I guess, otherwise. But that's not the problem. The problem is that Dion says, I like women with natural hair. And, you know, Dion has curlier, longish hair, not unlike my hair now. And he actually, he made like a pick so that you could scratch your hair, like, so you can scratch your scalp without messing up your hair. And it just looks like a big, long metal toothpick. So he sells those on his website. He's been doing that for years. So clearly he's in tune with natural hair. But the thing that bothered me is Shannon Sharpe goes, where do you find women with natural hair? And immediately I thought, oh, you just told on yourself because you clearly don't find that attractive because there are plenty of women out here with natural hair.
Yeah. Hello.
You're just drawn to these women who have long, silky hair, which is also crazy because then you tried to clown someone.
Right.
Talking about her horse hair. So that already bothered me. Then he goes.
Which kind of like there's some hints of misogyny in there too.
Well, there's a lot you can read into it. But then he goes on to say, like, do you have to go to Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic? Which we all know what that means, which is that he likes those fair-skinned ladies, like with like the long, straight hair. And then he goes, even with, and then talking about women in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, he goes, even the women with good hair don't wear it. So then it's like, oh my God, you just keep digging a hole. Because what does that mean? Like, what is good hair to you? Which, of course, makes me think of the Chris Rock documentary. So it's like, you're already telling on yourself saying that you're not checking for women with curly, natural hair is what he has to be talking about. Because then you're referencing Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, where they have wavy hair and often wear it straight. And then implying that that kind of hair is good hair. Which is crazy because the hair growing out of Shannon Sharpe's mama's head certainly was the kind of hair that he doesn't like. So I'm so surprised that I didn't see more commentary about that.
Yeah, that is shocking, considering he's put his foot in his mouth a few times about things. But where's Amanda Seales when we need her now?
I talk about hair a lot because I'm a beauty professional, and usually I'm commenting on how the hair doesn't make sense, or sometimes I just don't like it. But but I think, you know, overwhelmingly, like if someone were to talk to me in private about it, I always feel like that you should always work with what you have. Natural's the best. Like, it's the easiest to just work with what you have. And also, like, you know, well, how you are is beautiful. Like, you know, like
exactly. And if nobody likes that, then they can, you know, what they can do with themselves. But it's almost a little bit like lying. Like, it works better if you stick as close to the truth as possible, right?
I think so. I mean, obviously, when it comes to film and TV or stage and, you know, trying to transform into another character, there are no rules, right? I mean, well, there are some rules, but that's okay. Or wanting to feel the fantasy, wanting to go out and feel good. But I think some people, men, women, in between, you see them out and it's like, oh, you are clearly putting a lot of work into altering your appearance.
And who is this work for?
Well, I mean, it's clearly for themselves and also to attract people. But I think it's like, well, like you said, at some point, people have to get to know the real you, unless you fully plan on being, because there are people who are in relationships with people for a long time who don't know kind of like major things about them. Like they wear a toupee
Well, I mean,
I dated someone who, after me, dated someone who had like a prosthetic leg and didn't know for a long time. And they had been intimate several times.
Oh, I dated well, this is back when I was, was trying to be straight for at least let the world think so. When I was in high school, I dated a young woman she was actually several years older than me, that had a prosthetic leg. And I knew there was no getting around knowing that she had it, but she would not let me see her with it off.
Right. And it's just like, well, how are we going to truly connect if I can't get to know the real you? But that's a separate conversation. I just think, I do like Shannon Sharpe, but I just think sometimes he says shit that's so.
Well, he sounds like such an old man sometimes.
An old man who lives in I mean, I don't know. The more he talks, the more I'm like, oh, you and OJ probably would have been friends. I don't know.
OJ. That reminds me of, I'm sure I told you this story. This is probably circa 2016, and we were living in Westchester then. And I was taking it. And back then I would do what the Ubers where you could share. What was that called again?
Uber.
Yeah,
what was that called?
Whatever that
was an awful idea.
It was terrible.
I did that a few times, and I'm like, never again.
The only time I've like I had to snap at somebody once. Like who?
Yeah, what was that called?
Anyway, this man picked me up I remember, I think it was some kind of van. He was a fat man. He was black, and he smelled like mildew. And he wasn't talking to me, but whoever else was in the car. They were having a very animated conversation. The other passenger had just seen, I want to say, Ice Cube on tour, or had like performed in LA. And I don't know how they got talking about black women, but this mildew smelling Uber driver was like, "Oh, I can't even date within my own race anymore." And I was like, I think it was like, Sir,
looking and smelling like that, you probably can't date within your own species. So you know what? That drives me crazy, especially like these gross ass men who catcall women who wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. And then you hear, I mean, even listening to Shannon Sharpe and Dion Cole talking about like women and all these beautiful women and how they're, it's like, okay, not that they're like unattractive men, but if they weren't rich and famous,
well,
but that's so many men. Like they like.
I mean, I don't want
the audacity.
I don't want people to modify their thought because white people might be watching or they forget. But it's like that's what you really think. That is like, okay, there's some strange issues going on here.
That's the world we live in. Just look at any comment section of any post on anything.
Well, right,
you just see that people are delusional. They live in a bubble. Like. But I don't know. People probably say that about me. Anyway, moving on. I discovered a drag queen who sings Christian music who lives in North Carolina. And he seems like a really nice person. And I think it's, to be a gay man who does drag in like Western North Carolina, like rural North Carolina, singing Christian music is pretty, I'm sure that takes a lot of balls, but I probably shouldn't say balls. But the best part about the story is this drag queen's name.
Amy Grant.
Oh my gosh. You got it. It's Flamey Grant.
Oh my God. I was joking.
The drag queen's name is Flamey Grant. I thought that was so cute.
I just saw her in a documentary yesterday. Weird.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why I'm thinking, well, for some reason, Amy Grant makes me think of Shania Twain. Did you see pictures of Shania Twain at the most recent Country Music Awards?
No, but she looked crazy for a minute.
Or was it the American Music Awards?
Was she looking kind of trashy?
Where she looks like she's wearing a Little Mermaid dress with a Mars Attacks wig.
Oh God!
But
I think that as she's aged, like the taste level has become evident.
Wait, I need to find this picture so you can see it because
God, I remember my mother loved that huge. What was that huge album of hers in the 90s, produced by her husband Mutt at the time? The one with all the hits.
Well, I think that album is like one of the biggest albums of all time.
Yeah, and I got tired of hearing that.
I want you to see this picture because this is her. I'm sorry. It's at the 2024 People's Choice Award. Look at this.
Oh my God, I wouldn't even have recognized her.
She's giving me like if you mix Lisa Rinna and Denise Richards.
Yeah, and there's something kind of alien about it, like Mars. Like
I saw this picture and I'm like, who's that lady? I didn't think it was Shania Twain. And then I read the caption. And yeah, she doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look like her.
It doesn't look like her. Whatever.
Which is crazy.
But Amy Grant, I remember as a kid when she was off her Christian shit. Remember, because she had the secular album.
Yes.
And she had a hit from there that I remember liking.
Oh, I have them on my gym mix right now. It's Baby Baby.
Yeah.
That's on my gym mix.
I used to listen to that. Yeah.
And then there's another song of hers I really like from that same album.
God, well, what was I listening to that on? Probably VH1 or something as a kid, and then they'd also play Katie Seagal from Married with Children was a singer for a minute. I think I made you listen. I had her CD, and I liked some song about her having all these miscarriages.
Well, oh my, Katie Seagal. No, the Amy Grant song I really like, but for some reason I can listen to it off the album, but I can't put it on a playlist. So there must be some restriction with that particular song. But her song, Every Heartbeat, There's Your Name. That's the jam. That's the one right there.
And then every time her music videos would come on, my mom would be like, oh, guys, she's not Christian anymore.
Turn it off.
No, but that was always like the commentary. Like that's what people had to say. It's just like every time Ingrid Bergman came on television, my grandpa had to be like, "God, she was Hollywood's bicycle." Like, Jesus Christ, you people! Like, just let it go. Let it go.
Moving on to the restaurant section, we forgot to talk about Yardbird. That's the restaurant we went to.
We did mention it. We just didn't talk about the food.
Wow, I got messages like where you ate it for your anniversary. It was a restaurant called Yardbird.
You goddamn Yardbird.
You goddamn Yardbird. They're known for their famous fried chicken and their southern hospitality. They were very nice.
The hospitality was lovely. Yes.
The manager scared me because when we first sat down, I made sure to order a drink first before I went to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. I go to the restroom, which is in the very back. The restaurant's pretty big. It's at the Beverly Center on the corner of like La Cienega and 3rd Street. Mm-hmm. And San Vicente, I guess. It's like that weird intersection. But anyway, the restaurant's big. So I walk all the way to the back because we were in the front to go to the restroom. And there's this lone man sitting there by himself eating, and he was kind of glaring, like not in a friendly way. So I thought, so it registered in my mind. So then when we were almost done with our meal, he walked up to us and I was startled because I thought that's that man who was sitting back there. But then I realized he's the manager because he walked over to everyone. But the service, I mean, it was lovely. But to know that they're famous for their fried chicken, we ordered 2 things with fried chicken. Well, and that chicken was not.
Well, the tenders were good. The appetizer was fine because it felt like it had just been cooked. But I got the spicy fried chicken sandwich or whatever it was called, and the temperature was vastly different.
Well, the tenders were boiling. I mean, like they had just boiling hot. Like they had just pulled them out the grease. But I don't like that bulbous texture or like the skin.
Yeah, I actually didn't finish eating the chicken in my sandwich.
Right. It was weird. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, y'all need to go check out Popeyes and redo your recipe.
But the food was fine.
Was it?
It was.
Okay, I would definitely go back for happy hour. Because we're often over there to go to screenings. So, and like for happy hour, it's the perfect time for us to go and then go to the screening. So I would definitely go back for that.
When we walked in, the host, she asked if we wanted to sit outside or inside.
That outside area.
And you said, but right out there. And you go, no. And she laughed.
That bitch knew she was wrong for thinking that I want to sit out there. First of all, it's on the sidewalk of like this major intersection. No. And then you know what it looked like? That seating area at Yardbird at the Beverly Center outside looks like any smoking area at an airport.
Oh yeah. At one of a horrendously unpleasant intersection. Yes.
Yeah. Like, no, hun, I want to sit inside. And we got there early, so happy hour was happening, but only in the bar. So the bar was packed, but we wanted to sit down for a proper meal. So we sat in like the dining room area, and it was pretty empty. Except, did you notice that there was a couple next to us?
Yeah.
And that the man was being really picky about everything? Did you see him?
I think I zoned that out as I try to do with most people.
Oh my God. He had the bartender bring over 3 different cocktails.
That's right. I did notice that.
Did you notice that?
I did.
That was so uncomfortable. And I think they were on maybe like a second date because that lady looked uncomfortable and she got up twice. And then when she came back, she looked annoyed.
But, see, this is the process of meeting in public and dating, because the red flags that people display that they aren't good at hiding, at least you can see, because Jesus, what's wrong with people?
My advice, if you want to really get to know someone on a first date, have them pick you up so you can see how they drive, how their car is, like if it's clean or not, or if they thought about the fact that you're going to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me to get in your, which rarely happens nowadays, but if someone gives me a ride and they have to move shit off their front seat, like bags, empty bottles and shit, and then let them take you somewhere like to eat, and then see how they treat the staff, how they act about money,
how fussy they are about getting. If you want to be fussy over the food, but not me, okay.
Yeah, you're more fussy about this cocktail than that outfit you wore. Like you look like he had like nasty fingernails. I'm like,
yeah, let's.
But then so then this poor bartender brought over multiple drinks.
Like, let's focus. Okay.
And then ultimately I think said he didn't want anything. So you had this person make you 3 drinks. You tasted them all and then didn't order anything.
Wow.
But yeah, we ordered. I got they call it a Waldorf chicken sandwich, which was basically like an open-faced chicken salad sandwich with like a whole avocado cut on top of it. Wasn't that a lot of avocado?
It was, and you don't usually like avocado, so I was like, oh, okay. You didn't. It wasn't clear that much was coming. Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't want to be like,
Well, see, that's the other thing. There are things that. It's just not the way it's going to be. The way that they made the food there, this is what they gave me. It's just that this is the way they do it, and it's not my favorite, but I ordered it, and I'm going to eat it.
And now I know that when I go back, I probably won't order that sandwich again.
I also grew up in a family where my parents were like, "What we made you is what you're eating, or you are not eating." Oh. Okay, so I don't know. Like you don't have that much control, so you have to relinquish a little bit. I don't know.
My family. The big thing was like my mom will feed you until you explode.
I've experienced this.
And my sister and my brother, my sister is incredibly fit and like doesn't even eat sugar, and I just hate her. No, I'm very jealous of her, but she's always had like amazing eating habits. But then there's me, who's like literally as a kid, a hungry hippo. My mom will hand you all of the food.
Oh yeah. She asked me like once when we were visiting, you want a piece of cake or you want cake? Just cake. I'm like, sure. And she handed me the platter with a fork, and I said, oh no.
Yeah, my mom is not like no portion is too big. But meanwhile, my mom is very tiny. She eats like a bird. Like she would never eat. I think it's sadistic. I think that she likes watching people be gluttonous, which relates to our secret film.
Well, I think it's a kind of a love language thing. It's a providing thing.
Well, no, it is for sure. It's my mom's love language, but I also think because sometimes when I see people eating, I don't want to eat.
Yes.
Like it'll be like, oh, never mind. I don't want it. Because like, I think that's how my mom is able sometimes to not overeat because she watches other people gorge themselves and she gets grossed out. I think there's some control shit going on with that.
For sure.
Okay, moving on. You had us try a new pizza place called Pizzeria Sei.
Oh my God. Is it Sei or Sei?
It might be Sei. It's spelled SEI.
I think that's Italian for the number 6, right?
It's on the corner. It's on the corner of Pico. It's like that Pico Robertson area.
This might be some of the best pizza I've had in LA.
Actually, it is on the corner of Pico and Robertson. It's a tiny restaurant. There are only like maybe 3 2-tops.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 4-top, and then it's just counter space. And the counter space is kind of awkward because you're literally sitting in front of the people making the pizza.
Oh yeah, you were watching them.
Like I was closer to the lady making the pizza than I was to you because she was right in front of me. Like she could hear us talking. But do you want to describe what you ordered?
Oh my God, I loved it. I want to go back. I want some right now. Well, we got a Diavola, which is pretty standard kind of pepperoni Italian pizza that you can find in most places, which I liked. But the one that sent me was, granted, these were a little overpriced, really, but the lamb, it was one of the specials. It's probably not there anymore, but the lamb pizza with, I think, fennel on it. And granted, I've had variations of that at other pizza places, but with the ricotta cheese, it was really good. And it was
Well,
that pizza was $30.
I don't know. You know, they're like the Neapol. How do you say it?
Neapolitan,
Like the oven roll.
the Jeanette Napolitano pizzas.
Yeah. So, you know, some people would consider those like personal pizzas, but we ordered two and we had leftovers.
We did, yeah. I mean,
we also had their tiramisu, which was really good.
Yeah, you know, like if you have two pieces of each kind that you get, I think that's more than enough food. And the tiramisu was really good too, because how many times have you had that and you're like, this tastes really basic, but that I would get that.
Well,
again
it tasted fresh.
It tasted fresh, and I don't know that I've ever thought that I want tiramisu from the same place again, and I would get that again there. But really good, and you know, I also probably did kind of like the vibe because it felt like New York to me, and I just kind of prefer how New York feels.
Oh God! Well, go move there, shit.
Well, you know,
lastly, we went to the Bossa Nova at Sunset Plaza. And Bossa Nova is a chain of Brazilian restaurants, and we've been to several. But I used to work over there, and I don't know if it's new. I don't ever remember it being there. But we went.
It's next to Chin Chin's.
We went for a late lunch after watching The Apprentice, and the food was okay. The main thing about their menu is there's so much on the menu that doesn't feel Brazilian to me.
No, it feels like you got to look for the Brazilian tidbits almost.
It's like they do all this shit like pizza and burgers and sandwiches, but then they try to do a little, like, put a Brazilian twist on it.
Yeah,
there are dishes that are authentically Brazilian.
Yes,
but their menu is quite extensive. It's like they're trying to give you like every option available.
Yeah, and
because they even have like some like a burrito. And
the last time we were there before this, I tried their little Portuguese pizza, which I didn't love. Like, it was okay.
I got some traditional like bowl that I thought was tasty. There's like that yucca powder.
I like it more than you.
It's too salty, and they put a lot of it on there. Yeah, so I probably should have scooped it off. There was a fried banana. I don't think I've ever had a deep fried banana.
Oh, it
was pretty good.
Yeah,
and the meat was tasty. I don't like that the bone was in the bowl, but the thing I wanted to mention is we got some of their desserts. Mm-hmm. I only tried 2 of the 3 we got.
Same.
The Brigadeiro.
Yeah.
How would you describe that? I thought it was very interesting.
Very rich, because it's basically like a fudgy. It's the consistency is somewhere, but of the internal structure is somewhere between like a fudge and a pudding.
That's how I was going to describe it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, I mean, they look like bonbons.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like if you mix like a truffle, but it's like thicker than that, like fudge. You know what it kind of tastes like? Like when you get one of those cheap grocery store cakes, but they put fudge filling in it, and it's like that chewy fudge.
Yes,
that's kind of how it tasted.
Like almost on its way to like a muddy custard.
Yes, and they come in several flavors. We got the chocolate one. I really liked it, but
it was okay.
But it's very sweet.
You need milk, okay?
Or like some coffee, like black coffee. But I did enjoy it. And then they had yucca pound cake. I don't know. Y'all love to put
yuck.
Because every time you go to a Brazilian restaurant, they want to put heaps of yucca on everything. I don't know.
I'm so glad you asked for some yucca.
It's like they can't wait to get rid of that shit. I didn't. I don't know.
The pound cake was okay.
It was okay. It wasn't.
I don't think it. When I tried it, I'm like, this isn't going to be as sweet as I think you will want it to be. But
it's almost like a potato pancake that you put a little bit of sugar in. I don't know. It didn't.
Well, and then you're making a pound cake with flour and more flour, maybe with the yucca flour. But so there was a dryness to it.
Yeah,
it doesn't taste like, would Sarah Lee like this?
Would I go back? Absolutely, because Sunset Plaza has plenty of free parking.
That said, I'm excited to try the guava cheesecake.
Oh yeah, we have a guava cheesecake we haven't attacked yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is something in the sorry to this man section. We reviewed Terrifier 3.
Oh God.
And of course, there were a lot of nasty comments I had to remove because I guess we don't understand the lore.
I don't care.
But you know, there's me asking where did the little pale girl go, and apparently I didn't. And we reviewed Terrifier 2. That at the end of Terrifier 2, someone gives birth to something.
That sounds vaguely familiar, but I was not about to rewatch that.
Anyway, I was told through several many nasty messages that the little pale girl from Terrifier 2 possessed Vicky. So Vicky in the Terrifier 3 is the spirit of the little pale girl.
Yes, I saw some of those comments as well. Also, it doesn't matter because clearly this bullshit franchise is being cobbled
Here's
together.
my question for the people who act like the Terrifier movie is not Beau is Afraid. It does not deserve like this high level of examination.
No.
It is a ridiculous gore fest that I did enjoy. Number one, I thought number two had its fun moments, but to act like two people who are accustomed to watching movies and talking about them and who sat in a theater and paid full attention still were confused as to who this character was. So to me, it just seems like for a movie that is not well written, like Damien Leone is not a like talented screenwriter in my opinion.
I think it's Leone,
I'm sorry. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to shade him. I'm just saying like
I mean, this shit's whack. It's not good.
I remember being in AP English once and someone crafted a sentence like this really awkward sentence structure that wasn't grammatically correct. And the kid said, I think he actually referenced James Joyce.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the teacher saying like, you're no James Joyce. And until you get to that level, you need to have proper grammar. And so to me, that's kind of how I feel about these situations where it's like, this is not masterpiece level screenwriting. So to have all these like ambiguous aspects that require that I like run through the previous installments with a fine tooth comb is not of interest to me.
You know why? Because it was not written with that care. It was not constructed with that care.
But I'm not making excuses. Like I had no idea that Vicky was supposed to be the little pale girl from Terrifier 2. So whether that's my oversight or whatever.
No, and that's the other thing. I don't think you can expect people when you're making a franchise that they're going to go back and do that. So there's a way to craft the story for this next chapter, and
but
this doesn't do that.
But if he made it for the fans, then the fans obviously, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Making films for the people who are really like diehards, like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I'm not, so I didn't catch.
Well,
it.
Here's the thing for fans: be a fan. Don't care what anybody else thinks because it's about you and what you think. You're the fan, not everybody else.
Okay, let's move on. Films released we didn't cover. Piece by Piece.
I had no interest in this, but it's a Lego movie about Pharrell Williams. His life.
Yeah, I wouldn't have watched that.
Morgan Neville, though, Oscar-winning documentarian.
Aaron Neville's brother?
I don't think so.
The touch, the feel,
Anyway, that's a sampling of Aaron Neville for anybody that's never listened to him sing.
What's his big song with? Is it Linda Ronstadt?
I thought it was Trisha Yearwood.
No, I think his biggest song is with Linda Ronstadt.
Oh, but he did a song with Trisha too. Then I don't know. I don't like country music, but most of my references.
Their big song. I don't know much.
Oh yes, I do. My dad would make fun. My dad would clown Aaron Neville. Because
his appearance doesn't match his voice, and then nothing matches that big ass mole.
Well, the mole. I mean, Enrique had his removed, I guess. But that Fruit of the Loom commercial, that's what we were sampling.
Listen, he got many checks, so good for him.
Good for him, sir. Anyway, Morgan Neville, I believe a white person, directed 20 Feet from Stardom, which won him his Oscar, which was a documentary
featuring Lisa Fisher, who I really like.
Hmm.
Are we done with Piece by Piece?
Piece by Piece. I don't know when I'll see it.
Lonely Planet.
Susanna Grant, who's the screenwriter of Aaron Brockovich. She also directed Catch and Release with Jennifer Garner, if anyone remembers that film. Has a new Netflix movie that opened streaming, with Laura Dern and Liam Hemsworth in a romantic configuration. I love Laura Dern. I don't care much for Liam Hemsworth, but I would probably watch this.
Lastly, Mr. Crockett.
This, I think, is children that are being plagued by some kind of TV host personality from hell type figure. It's Brandon Espy's debut, which played at several genre festivals, I believe, and streams on Hulu.
I know we received messages about Mr. Crockett.
We did, but we didn't get to it.
Projects of interest. I love Boosters.
Boots Riley is finally making his sophomore feature. You still need to see Sorry to Bother You, and we both still need to see his series I'm a Virgo. But he's got a stacked cast, which, as the title suggests, deals with boosting. But Keke Palmer, who's delayed her retirement, thankfully. Naomi Ackie, who we just saw in Blink twice, and she played Whitney Houston. Lakeith Stanfield and Demi Moore. As the woman, I believe, who is the target of this boosting circle somehow. But I'm glad to see maybe Demi's stock has gone up after the substance, and we can see her in some more interesting things.
R.I.P.
Joe Carnahan, who I think is a sometimes decent filmmaker. I need to rewatch Narc. I think I have a soft spot for his Liam Neeson wolf movie, The Grey, even though it's totally ridiculous. But if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. He's got a new genre film coming out, and Kyle Chandler is going to star, who I will say for Mr. Chandler has looked the same for a long time.
Lastly, Headhunters.
It is the directorial debut of Stephen Halloran, but it's notably going to star Kevin Costner in his first non-Western vehicle in quite some time, and it's a genre film, and I think he plays some kind of instructor in Bali doing something, and things happen.
Okay, this past week on Patreon, we reviewed Blade Runner and The Fountainhead.
Yes.
Nick sponsored the Fountainhead video, so I made it available to everyone. So for people who
yes, I did pay for
aren't
that.
patrons, you can still join for free, and then some posts are available to everyone, like the review of The Fountainhead. Also, I made one of them for people who don't follow us on Patreon. Every week we recap all the movies we watched for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I made one of them available to everyone, so people can get a glimpse of all of the quality content we are providing.
More bullshit to hear.
Okay, there are many entries in the obituary section, which is sad to me. First off, we forgot to mention last week that good old Kristoferson died.
Although I had watched Cisco Pike last week, so there was talk.
He is a musician, but also an actor.
A very notable one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I do know who he, like, I recognize him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've seen. I know
You've seen the first Blade, at least.
He's in the first Blade?
Yeah, he's Blade's sidekick.
He is?
Yes, that old man, yeah.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I don't know who this is, and I'm confusing him with Rick Springfield.
Oh, God, no. No.
Sorry to this man. Anyway, what would you like to say about Kristoferson?
I mean, it made me sad, but he was up there. In fact, I will be making you watch Heaven's Gate sometime in the near future, because he had an affair with Isabelle Huppert on the set of that movie.
He has an album called Full Moon, like Brandy. Can you sing some of Full Moon?
No,
I'm not even gonna front. I'm not even gonna lie.
There's I like a remix of that song, actually, by
Brandy.
Brandy.
The one I had played?
Yeah, Brandy.
Yeah, there's a remix.
Although, sadly, my favorite Brandy song also features Chris Brown. But I like that song. Anyway.
Chris Brown's back in favor, I think.
He's fine. Yeah, I mean, like, how punitive do I want to be? That's a question I ask a lot of people.
The Brandy song, well, it's a remix of Full Moon. It's the C&J remix.
Yes.
And I added that to my gym mix as well. It's good.
Anyway, Kristoferson, you need to, Taxi Driver. Yeah, he had a long, illustrious career. But he was an older gentleman, and, we all got to go.
How old? He was 88 years old.
Yeah. I mean, we've lost a lot of 80 somethings this past, like John Amos was what, 84, Maggie
Well,
Smith was
that's when people
89.
should be dying, I suppose. Okay, Jorge Arriagada,
Uh-huh.
a French Chilean film composer, died.
Yes. Very notable specifically for his collaborations with Raul Ruiz, who was also uh, Chilean, but had to, because of the situation in Chile, relocated to France, where he made some very notable films. But he died, and it made me pull out. I haven't watched it because it's long, but I do collect Catherine Deneuve films with whom Ruiz directed a few times. But Proust's Time Regained, which I think is 3 hours, and because. But yeah, I am familiar with Arriagada's work. The last thing that I saw was The Tango of the Widower and Its Distorting Mirror, which was an old, I believe, kind of mostly unfinished film by Ruiz that was completed by his widow after his death, Valeria Sarmiento. And so I saw that in Berlin, and I really liked that film. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, he was up there too.
Okay, next, Wanda Smith died a day after her 58th birthday. Wanda Smith is a popular radio personality based out of Atlanta. She's also a comedian. She wrote for 90s shows like Def Comedy Jam and Comic View, but people might recognize her from earlier this year when Cat Williams went viral, not just for the Club Shay Shay interview, but him going off on this interviewer. Do you remember all those clips where he's like, I'm not the one sitting here with $12 worth of jewelry and calling her nice lady? That was one.
That was her? Oh, God.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, it's unexpected, and she was young.
Yeah.
So that's sad to hear. Okay, next, Madonna's brother died, Kristofer Ciccone.
I saw that too, yeah.
I remember him in the early 90s because he was a part of her milieu,
her entourage. Yeah.
And he like directed some of her stuff, like I think was a creative director on a couple of her tours. He was gay. Imagine being a gay man
and Madonna's your sister.
Madonna is your effing sister. Can you imagine?
Yeah, but then that also makes like kind of her bullshit with Guy Ritchie even more troubling.
Well, then I was reading, because the only reason I knew about this is because she posted a very long Instagram post about her brother. And then I'm like, well, I wonder why they fell out, because the language she used was very clear, like that we've now come back together and that she tried everything she could to save him, because he saved him as in he died from pancreatic cancer. So it sounds like he got the best care imaginable.
I'm sure.
And that ultimately he was just in a lot of pain, and then it was the end. But I was trying to read, like, why was he not a bigger part of her life, or like if they were so close? But it seems like they fell out because of a couple of things. One was her marrying Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
Because he said that Guy Ritchie was homophobic.
Yeah, he was.
And then I think there were some money issues, like maybe she wasn't giving him the money he wanted. Also, he had, I think, been the creative director on a couple tours, and then for the tour after the last tour he did, she hired someone else without telling him. So that's unfortunate, but it's nice to hear that they were able to sort of get back to one towards the end of his life.
Well, good for them.
And then lastly, Cissy Houston died.
Yeah.
Whitney Houston's mama.
Well, I think I texted you that. You never responded to me about it.
Oh, well, I had already known that she had died. But Cissy Houston had a nice career before her daughter became a pop superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was a gospel singer she was part of a group. She had solo albums. She was a backing singer for people like Aretha Franklin, Shaka Khan.
We know.
And then she's the auntie of Dionne Warwick and the cousin of Leontine Price, the opera singer. So that's a nice pedigree. When I think about Cissy Houston, unfortunately, the first thing that pops into my head is that interview she did with Oprah several years after Whitney died. And Oprah asked her, like, if Whitney were gay, would you have had a problem with that? And Cissy said yes. And Oprah was shocked. Like, Oprah made that face she made when Raven Simone said she doesn't consider
Her
herself
still
black.
yeah.
And then Oprah's like, well,
are you sure you want to
are you
say
sure you want to say
that?
that? Because we can rewind the tape. And she doubled down. That's the look she gave Cissy. Like, wait, so you really would have had a problem? And Cissy's like, yeah. But
I believe it. I believe her when she says that. Yep.
And I do believe her when she says it. But here's the thing. I can only imagine, like, she had what I'm assuming is not a great marriage with Whitney's dad, John.
Well, he was.
Because they separated, like, in the late 70s, but didn't get a divorce until the early 90s. And he turned out to be like an unsavory character business-wise. So I can imagine that was a rough go. And then the lifestyle she lived trying to raise these kids with this man and kind of being in the light. And then your daughter becomes like a super celebrity. And then you watch your child like have all these issues. That can't have been hard. And then I can't even imagine what it would be like to watch your child die.
Well, right. But then,
and then your grandchild die.
There were certain parts of her child's life she was not able to talk to her about because of her beliefs. So, when we're not being realistic and actually getting to the roots of some problems or issues, because you're not allowed to authentically be yourself, it's like that's part of the problem.
Well, we don't know all the details, and we don't, Whitney never said any of that out of her own mouth. And so it's unfortunate that my main memory of Cissy is that interview, but then I have to think like,
well, she's, a woman of a certain time and place.
Right. And then, what would it have been like to watch, to see your kid die and then your grandchild die with the same trajectory as.
One of the things that always pops into my head about her is when she was backup singing for Aretha.
Oh my God! When Aretha tried to
Rolling
sing "Rolling in the Deep," and she was warbling through that, and you have for people, I'm assuming people who listen to us have probably seen it, but if you haven't, you need to watch Aretha Franklin's live performance of "Rolling in the Deep." I'm sure if you Google Cissy Houston, Aretha Franklin,
there's
Rolling in the
Deep,
cut, there are cuts of just Cissy's face. She looks so over it. And I think that someone interviewed Aretha asking her about that.
Yeah.
And she said something to the effect of like, I don't know what Cissy was doing.
And Cissy by then doesn't look too far off from, she could have been cast as Juno in the Beetlejuice remake.
I don't think she really probably knew what they brought her out there for.
Yeah.
Okay. The secret film this week was your choice.
Yes.
And you chose the 2000 Czech surreal dark comedy horror film, Little Otik, also known as Greedy Guts.
Yes.
Directed by Jan Svankmajer.
Svankmajer, yep.
Svankmajer? Yep. Sorry. Jan Svankmajer.
Who is one of, if you don't know, Jan Svankmajer is one of the best animated filmmakers that has, in my mind, ever lived.
That's a bold claim.
Oh, this is the first time you're seeing anything by him, but he has a select number of feature narratives, and they are all a wonder to behold.
What is Little Otik about? A childless couple passes off an anthropomorphous tree stump as their baby, but things get out of hand when the monstrosity comes to life and demands to be fed. This movie was crazy as hell.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels like two movies put into one long 2-hour, 12-minute thing. Overall, I did think it was very well done. Okay, the story. So there is this couple, Bozena and Karel. Karel's the man.
Yes.
And they live in this town somewhere in the Czech Republic. It seems like it's a decent sized little city. And we see that everyone in the town is like having babies. Like fertility is not a thing, but this couple is having trouble conceiving. And we find out that, they went to a doctor and it seems like they both are struggling with fertility issues. So the likelihood that this couple will have a child is 0. So one day, the man, Karel, he wants to do something nice for Bozena. I know I'm tearing up this name. Is that how you would say it? Bozena?
Yeah, close.
He tries to do something nice for her. He goes in the backyard of the apartment building they live in and digs up a dead tree stump, and he carves like a figure out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like a tree person. And it's pretty big. It's the size of like a 5-year-old. And he gives it to his wife, Bozina.
And immediately
she's like, my baby. And she starts dressing it. And he looks at her like, okay, bitch, calm down.
But previously she'd been kind of trying to do that with the cat they have. But the cat, cats act like cats.
Yeah, she's trying to be extra attentive and loving to this cat. And the cat is not feeling it. The
like,
cat
no.
is also not feeling this wood creature.
No.
So the husband is getting concerned because she is really acting like this is a baby. So he tells her like, this is enough. We're not doing this. And then, okay, in the building they live in, there's a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this lady, her alcoholic ass husband, and their like maybe 11-year-old daughter, Alzbetka.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the important person, Alzbetka, this little nosy ass girl who lives in the same building. So one day, Karel, the man, is coming home, and the neighbor lady goes, "Oh, congratulations!" And he's like, "The fuck you talking about?" "Oh, Bozena told us she's much blessed. She's with child." And he pushes that lady to the side and runs up the stairs. And we find out that this lady told everyone that she's pregnant. And she's like, "Oh, but I have a plan." She has made like fake bellies to put in for every month of the pregnancy. So she has 9 of these fake bellies already ready to go. And so he's like, okay. So we get this montage of her living through being pregnant. And then this crazy lady who's fake pregnant decides to go into premature labor.
She doesn't want to wait anymore, okay?
She makes it to the 8th month and then goes into labor. And her neighbor is the one who she goes to.
Mm-hmm.
So when Karel comes home, the neighbor's like, "Oh my God, come inside. Bozena's in like labor. We're calling the ambulance." And he freaks out, unplugs the phone, like, "Don't call the ambulance because they're going to know she's crazy." Mm-hmm. But he tries to play it off like, no, don't call the ambulance because I promised her I'll take her to the hospital. Just let me do it. Help me drag her ass down to the car. And then they drive to this cabin in the woods they own.
Where the Bosneva has been, like, that's where she can go on the weekends to be free with her tree stump baby.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Karel doesn't want her acting crazy at home, so he said on the weekends you can go to the cabin and play with this wood stump. So he takes her there and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave you here for a week, so everyone thinks that like you had this baby, and then we can figure it out from there." Child, a week later, Karel goes back to this cabin, and what does he see? His wife sitting in the bedroom, looking like the Virgin Mary, breastfeeding this wooden baby. But the gag is, this thing is alive. It is sucking on her titty.
Yes. And
Karel,
this is kind of her peak moment.
Karel freaks, and this is when the movie changes.
Yeah.
Because I would say for the first hour, it's more of sort of like it is kind of a dark comedy, but it's also sort of like focusing on like the trauma that one can feel when they can't have something they want so badly. You would think that it'd be about this woman who like descends into madness, but then it switches up because this creature is real. So the husband tries to chop it up with an axe, and she stops him saying, "You're a murderer. If you kill this baby, you're going to have to kill me first." And so he goes, "Okay, well, I guess we're just going to have this baby." So then they proceed to try to hide the baby. So she takes it on walks, but she fully wraps it up so no one can ever see her baby. And then the baby starts getting bigger. So she has to start carrying around a fake baby. But what hems them up is that nosy ass neighbor girl, Alzbetka. Okay, she likes to read. We see her reading books about like sexuality. It looks like she's reading the Kama Sutra. And then she gets a book on fairy tales. And one of the fairy tales is about this thing called Otizanic.
That sounds right, yeah.
And it's exactly what we're witnessing. It's about this couple who can't have a baby, and then they end up getting this like wood baby, and the wood baby is always hungry, and there's this woman with a cabbage patch that's able to kill it. And sure enough, in the building Karel and Bozena live in, there is a cabbage patch tended to by this old lady. So you already know where the story's going. But Carell gets so fed up that he says, let's put this baby in the basement. Because
why does he get fed up?
Because the baby is growing big and it's killing people. Like its appetite is insatiable.
And I think you mean pun intended with fed up.
Yeah. Because they're giving it all the food and it's not enough. And then the first kill is like the postman.
Well, the first kill is the cat.
Oh, that's right. It eats the cat, then it eats the postman, then it eats the social services lady who comes to check in on him.
Which is a very funny scene because you see a little more.
Yes. And we can talk about the visuals because I think they're very impressive. But they've named this baby Otik, hence the name Little Otik, which is also funny because this thing was never little. No. It was always big as hell. But they throw Little Otik in the basement and lock him in like a crate. But he's always crying because he's hungry. And it's like a horrible sound because it sounds like a baby crying.
But it's loud and bubbly.
Gurgly.
Gurgling, yeah.
So nosy ass Elsbetka, that neighbor girl, she decides, because she's reading this book, she recognizes that this is like that creature. So she befriends it and she tries to feed it. But then when she can't get any more food, she decides, well, I guess I'm going to have to let it eat people. And the first person she lets it eat is the building pedophile.
Everyone has one, I guess.
This old man who's like literally a pedophile, like constantly trying to like grab on this little girl. So we need to talk about the scene where she seduces him. But that's the first kill. Then the dad, Carell, finds out what's happening and he gets a chainsaw, goes down there to chop up the baby. But then he's disarmed because the baby says, Dada. So he drops his chainsaw and says, oh, my son. But then little Otik kills his dad, kills the mom. And then the final scene is that
he gets him them cabbages. He eats
those cabbages. And in the fairy tale Elsbetka was reading, it says that if this creature eats cabbage, it'll make it really sick. So it eats the cabbage, gets really sick. And then it says that in the fairy tale, the old lady who tends to the cabbages will kill the creature with a garden hoe. So the final scene is we see the old lady who tends to the cabbage patch. She takes her hoe and walks towards.
She goes downstairs, yeah.
The end. So we don't see her kill it, but the assumption is that she will, the prophecy will be fulfilled.
She will vanquish, yes.
This shit is so crazy because, like I said, the first half feels like sort of like a psychological drama kind of, but except there are comedic moments, which is kind of odd. And then the second half becomes like a creature feature, like a Henenlotter movie of sorts,
or Lynch. I think it,
or that maybe it's a better
Eraserhead
reference. But yeah, it's so weird.
It's weird and fun and bonkers a bit, but it's really Otik who makes it a lot of fun.
Should I just go through my notes?
Yes.
The little girl reading these books. So her parents, the mom is just so preoccupied with cooking that she's not even worried about this little girl.
I did really like the character of her mother, Pani.
Yeah, and then the dad is like Al Bundy. All he does is drink and complain.
Frantisek, yes.
But they catch her reading these books that are too adult for her because the adults, like her mom and dad, are talking about their neighbor, Carell and Bozina, saying like, intimating they have fertility problems. And then this little girl goes, oh, maybe he has like slow sperm or whatever language, however it's translated really, but the captions say slow sperm. Like, I'm assuming they meant like low sperm count. And the dad's like, how do you know what that means? And he sees that she's reading this book on sexuality.
Now, who gave her this?
Okay, the visuals. So to start off, we get a lot of, I would say the main symbol in this movie is food. We get so many shots of food close up, food being served, food being eaten. Of course, the imagery of the baby eating food, the aftermath of like the carcasses on the ground. And we were talking about what we think the movie means. The overall message I got from the film was about gluttony. And
because gluttony it overrides the natural order of consuming.
Right. And so wanting things that you don't necessarily need or shouldn't have.
Yes.
So like in the instance of all these, like, so then it's just like nonstop eating and then this couple wanting a baby so badly that they end up with this situation. Because then I was thinking, and this is controversial and I don't believe in this, but sometimes, people talk about like, oh, we prayed for this and God blessed us. But then when they have problems conceiving, it's never the opposite. Like, well, maybe God doesn't want me to have a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that, but I do think it's funny that the opposite is never true.
Right.
That people, you know, you never hear people say, well, maybe I'm having trouble because God knew I'd be a raggedy ass parent. It's like, no, we're going to bypass God and we're going to go to a doctor in science to help us get pregnant. Again, I don't have issues with fertility treatments. I just think it's funny. But that conversation is never
Well, that people bend things to their own will.
right. And so I feel like that's what I felt watching this movie, that like gluttony, like just overconsumption, wanting things that you don't need that ultimately can hurt you, like food can be harmful if in excess or not
or
eating
to
nutritional
others.
food.
The ripple effect of gluttony is larger than you would expect.
So then we have all the food imagery. Then we have we see Carell, I think in particular, kind of hallucinating about a baby, because at one point doesn't he cut a watermelon open and there's a baby inside, like just demonstrating how badly they want this thing.
Well, because that would be the answer to their issues.
And then the old pedophile, every time he sees a little girl, he gets really excited. And then we get stop motion of his pants unbuttoning.
And a hand coming out.
And then you think a penis is going to pop out, but it's his hand reaching for
her.
As Betka, which is creepy.
It's creepy, but I think is a really effective way to show like the urge.
Oh, 100%. But the most fun is little Otik, because it's this like tree stump stop motion and it just looks so creepy. It's constantly like writhing. Describe its mouth.
Well, just this hole, and sometimes this pouty looking hole, and sometimes, and you often see an eye peek out from it, like a meaty looking eye.
Its head hole houses its eye, its tongue, its teeth. It has some big old chompers.
It has chompers. It's got Matt Dillon. There's something about Mary Chompers. Yeah.
When we see that, oh God, what is her name? Bozina. When she makes those 9 fake bellies, I knew we were in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Like she's in too deep.
Like Omar Epps?
Like Omar Epps and is it LL Cool J?
Nia Long is the one.
In Too Deep is, wait, who's in Too Deep? I know it's Omar Epps.
I thought it was Omar and Nia. That's who I remember.
It stars Omar Epps and LL Cool J. That's who's on the poster. That's why I remembered it. But yes, Nia Long's in it. Hill Harper, Stanley Tucci, Pam Grier's in that movie.
Yeah, I watched that in preparation for Fatal Affair.
My God, Anjanou Ellis Taylor's in it.
Yeah,
and the singer Maya. Oh my God.
Great cast. I don't really remember that movie though, and I watched it just 4 years ago.
Veronica Webb, Jermaine Dupri.
Yeah.
Wow. I got sidetracked.
You did.
Anyway.
Because you got in too deep.
I did get in too deep. Okay. Then we see Bozina's so damn crazy because now she's pretending to be pregnant that she also has fake cravings. We see her eating pickles with whipped cream on.
Yeah. And then of course she throws up and it's like, well, that's why.
But I'm sure she's like, oh, I have morning sickness. Oh my God. The scene when she is faking labor. I just thought if I were her husband, I'd be so.
Oh, I'd be so mad.
I'm like, we're going to the hospital. Like we're going to the hospital, but it's not for, it's not labor and delivery unit because it's psychiatric.
Right.
Oh my God. This nosy ass little girl and her drunk ass daddy. She was driving me crazy.
She's kind of cute though.
I thought she looked like Amy Schumer, but you said she looked like.
I said Mia Wasikowska.
But I need to look. Okay, let me.
You know what Mia looks like.
Mia Wasikowska.
And she's kind of a character that's gonna,
oh yeah, she does,
a staple for Spankmeyer because his narrative debut was kind of a ersatz version of Alice in Wonderland. That was the Czech title, I think, means something like it means something from Alice, which is probably more appropriate. But Alice, as it was released here, features a little girl performance that I thought was really grating. I haven't seen that movie in years and years and years, but I much preferred this little girl in this film.
Wait, what's the movie Mia Wasikowska? Say it.
Mia Wasikowska?
She did a movie where she plays like the queen of something.
Alice in Wonderland?
No, it's like a real life person, a historical figure.
She's a historical figure? We just watched her in Maps to the Stars because you hadn't seen that. If you remember.
There's a movie you really liked from like, I think the film festival season, like the previous year, about this woman who's playing a historical figure. I think a Hungarian queen or princess. Oh my God. Okay, well now I'm stuck.
I don't think with Mia Wasikowska.
I'll have to do some research because we actually reviewed it, and she's like the background image of the thumbnail.
Mia Wasikowska?
Well, it's some lady who looks like that. It could be anybody. It could be Amy Schumer. I don't know. Because if you put a little baby fat on Mia Wasikowska, she looks like Amy Schumer to be. Okay, the cat is scared. The cat is scared of its owner.
Mm-hmm.
The cat is scared of that damn little Otik. And then, of course, it eats it. Okay, so the mom is not afraid of Otik.
No.
And she has long blonde hair. And she's letting little Otik, because she's like doing the whole goo goo gaga with the baby, and the baby's grabbing her hair. And then we see little Otik eat her hair. That was a scary scene.
It was scary because, and you could see it in her eyes too. Like,
That was a part that confused me. She seems scared, but then she won't like do what's reasonable.
Well, doesn't that remind you of a lot of parents that have like sociopaths for children? They're like, you can see your kid is a problem.
And you're like, oh, he wouldn't harm a fly.
Meanwhile, he's butchering cats in the basement. Okay.
But little Otik eats her hair. The dad has to come like cut it off, and then she gives herself a bob haircut. Like, oh, it looks better this way anyway.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, one day, both of them are gone because they leave the baby at home alone. And then every time they come home, it either killed someone or tore something up.
Well, because she has to go out and get food, and the dad has to work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, they both come home at the same time, and they realize that like, oh, Bozina left milk boiling. So there's this huge pot of boiling milk. And Carell goes, oh, we can give this to the cat. And then he ladles out some of that boiling ass milk to give to the cat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they realize Otik ate the cat. But I couldn't believe that they were going to give that cat boiling milk. Like,
right.
Why couldn't they just let it cool down?
Right. Like,
I was very upset by that. It's so irresponsible. But I guess these people are.
This poor cat, they're not very nice. Once she no longer is using it as a baby crutch, she's not very nice to the cat.
Okay. The detective, someone calls the like fertility doctor to check up on.
Well, because the lady growing the cabbages discovers that she's bringing a fake doll out in the pram.
That's right. So she goes to the police, and then they contact Carell and Bozina's doctor. But while they call him, he's in the room, like he's in his
examination
room with a pregnant woman who is half nude because she's wearing a dressing gown.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, he tells her, oh, lift up, take off your gown. So she starts to lift it up when his phone rings. So he tells her, hold on. So for the entire scene, you have this pregnant woman standing there with her belly and vagina exposed and her face covered,
mm-hmm.
while he's on the phone talking about another patient.
Right.
And he's talking about like their fertility issues and sperm count. Again, HIPAA violation. And then when he's done on the call, he says, okay, you can take it off. And then she finishes taking off the gown.
And then we see her breasts.
That was interesting.
It was, yes.
Okay, social services shows up, this lady. And, they show up unannounced sometimes. So she shows up. And Bozina tries to slam the door in that lady's face. And that social services woman was like, not today.
I'm coming in.
She busts through the door like the Kool-Aid man. And then she's looking all through the house. And she's like curious because there are all these bottles. And then Bozina is boiling something on the stove.
This nosy woman puts a ladle in what
she lifts up the lid, grabs a ladle. And what does she pull out? What did that look like to you?
It was some hunk of meat that was really
unappealing. It looked like tripe. Like someone was boiling tripe.
It was really unappealing. And you know what it would probably smell like in there? Cooking like that? No.
And how are they cleaning up the dead bodies? But then the social services person like forces her way into the baby's room. And then this is when we get a very comical attack because Otik is huge. It's like the size of a polar bear. And he mauls this lady. And you see blood flying everywhere. It's a comedy at this point.
Yes.
Okay, so now that nosy ass little girl, Alzbetka, now that she's trying to take care of Otik in the basement, she's taking food from her parents. And we see her in one scene, like take all the food out of the refrigerator. But before that, she's having like, I don't know if that was like a lunch. I think it was their lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, the food they were eating was so gross. It looked like stewed meat with bread, and this girl's trying to eat it all fast so she can leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes everyone's leftovers, dumps it back in the pot, and then takes the pot downstairs. Her parents don't even stop her.
I mean, her mom cooks so much. I'd be like, you are not taking away all that food I've been making all day.
Right. And then when she goes back to get more and she fills up a bag with all their stuff,
And her
and
mom,
she's trying to lie, talk about, well, my friend, we're having a study party. Like, no,
and I'm
bitch.
expected to bring things. Her mom's like, okay, the fridge is off limits.
You can't go in here unless I'm in the room. And then she makes her a sandwich, which kind of looked good. It looked like
Butter and bread.
Or it looked like that flavored spreadable cream cheese, like garlic herb
Mm-hmm.
on some really good, like pumpernickel.
Pumpernickel.
I don't know. For some reason, maybe I'm pregnant. I don't know. That looked really good to me.
Oh, I want a pastrami on rye.
Garlic herb cream cheese spread on some good pumpernickel
Mm-hmm.
with a Bloody Mary.
Ooh, I've said this before, a good sandwich. Oh,
There's nothing like a good sandwich.
it can hit just right, and it's so good. Yeah.
Oh God, when Bozina is trying to groom the baby and she's clipping its nails, she looks crazy. And then we see Elsbetka giving the baby a bath, like this tree baby.
Well, because there's a hygiene thing that has been drilled into Elsbetka's head, and she's bringing food to Otik, and she's like, you have to wash your hands.
That's right.
Like, okay. And so before he starts killing people in the basement, the baby has already learned to wash its stumps.
Yes, it washes its hands before it like eats. Okay, so when Elsbetka decides that she can't get enough food, we're going to kill people. She draws straws, and she draws the pedophile straw. I don't know why she had to think about it. She should have just chosen him straight out the gate.
Mm-hmm.
But she seduces him, which is so uncomfortable.
It's very creepy. Well, you see this little girl's panties a little too many times.
I know. I was
like,
I'm like, oh, I don't know about this, but I'm hoping that it wasn't actually her, that it was like a double, like an adult.
I don't know.
But I don't know. Either way, the little girl seducing the old man, like, come hither, like, hey, come over. She's doing like sexy poses, and this old creepy man is like with his hands out trying to grab her.
But also, no, and Elsbetka has referred to him as a pedophile to her parents, other people in the building, and they're all just like, girl, what are you talking about?
He's an old man. He can barely stand up.
He's fragile. Okay.
But again, it's like people, I mean, I think that's part of the gluttony thing. Like, people are so like self-absorbed and unaware of like what's going on around them. Like, you want this baby so bad, but it's killing people. Like, let it go. Throw it in the wood chipper. Yeah, this movie was shocking. I didn't read about it before you put it on. So this really was a secret movie. Is it a good October choice? I think this movie is good for any time of the year.
I think it is too, but it's a creature feature. It's actually on the Letterboxd's top 250 rated films. I haven't seen it in 20 years, and it just reminded me that I kind of want to rewatch a bunch of Jan Svankmajer films.
Oh, I didn't even look. Where is it available?
I own it.
Because you own it. Let's see here. It's available. Oh, it appears like it's not streaming anywhere, so you might have to buy it.
I think it's hard to get a hold of a lot of his stuff, although I am glad his 2018 film Insect, which is going to be his last because he's old, and his wife, who worked on most of his films with him, has been dead for 20 years of breast cancer. I found available on a site streaming, so that's exciting to me because I've been wanting to see that. But I think Alice is probably the most easiest accessible, or maybe because Conspirators of Pleasure is hard to get a hold of. Lunacy should at least be available on DVD. I know that one, and that's pretty good too. But yeah, for
people who, if what we said sounds interesting, you should watch the trailer. And if your interest is piqued, if you buy it, you should definitely watch it with people.
I mean, visually, he has certainly influenced Terry Gilliam and Tim Burton, for sure.
Oh. Well, yeah, I definitely would recommend this. What would you give Little Otik / Greedy Guts?
Greedy Guts gets a 4 from me, baby.
And, I guess the Czech title was Otisonic.
Yeah, like the fairy tale.
Like the fairy tale. I thought it was excellent. I would give Little Otik 4 out of 5. What do we have coming this week?
Blitz.
What?
The highly anticipated new Steve McQueen feature, which Saoirse Ronan is getting Oscar buzz for. Smile 2.
Oh yeah, we're seeing Smile 2. The review for Honora will drop.
Mhm.
Oh, and then of course we're doing the screening of Scream Queen on Wednesday.
The new Guy Madden you're going to see this week, Rumors.
Okay.
With Kate Blanchett as the German chancellor.
Oh. All right. Are you reading anything?
I'm reading I, Claudius right now by Robert Graves. I'm only about like a fourth of the way in, but it's very good, and I can't wait to watch the series. And he wrote a sequel that I also have.
Good for you. Anything else?
No.
Ta-ta.